Another big topic I want to touch, which at the same time I think there's not so much to say around it, but since it is a big one in people's life, and this is the notion of love. But as we say, there is love and true love. And most of the people refer to that regular definition or meaning of love. But of course, there is enough online now to understand the difference and compare both. And as much as many people still mean to know the difference, or to understand the difference, the greatest majority again still gets caught up in the regular meaning of love, which is still a very self-centered affair. The difference and how one can define true love is indeed when there is no ego involved. It is the same as the best friendship and the notion of what we call the four highest values for a human, or the four Brahma Viharas, which have to do with metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and the fourth, which is important in the whole practice of Buddhism, is upekkha, which is equanimity. And upekkha, equanimity by itself, implies no ego involved actually, because to be equanimous properly, it means that you don't take anything that is happening personally, as one should have understood that nothing is personal at the end, at the same time as you are always fully responsible for whatever happens in your mind, which means however you feel at any given moment for whatever reason, always blaming the reason or the cause to the outside for the situation, the life, the event, the weather, or the people or the person who you are interacting with, is always the very immature way and non-proper understanding of how the true reality of things work. And upekkha, equanimity, ultimately will be the key to reach enlightenment and nirvana, because that's exactly the ultimate meaning of not taking anything personal, not having any ego involved, and only being a very neutral witness of whatever is happening. And so the notion of true love implies really the 100% into the other, and there is no ego involved. In the sense of no selfish interest, no self-interest. And as much as most people, when they look for love, supposedly, and to wish and to find a relationship, that implies expectations. And usually those expectations, again, by definition, are very self-centered. as much as nature will decide, actually, despite whatever most people think, which is why most relationships are a roller coaster, and people try hard, supposedly, to make it work or to pretend that it's okay or working, but obviously it's very much up and down, which confirms that it's not the proper relationship. But again, you have been conditioned to seek that in your life, and everything has been romanticized. And again, the conditioning of the mind has been well formatted to make people addicted to that idea, as it's supposed to tease some deeper feelings, let's say, or sensory receptors within the mind and in life. And of course, the whole system is playing a lot with that. But then again, usually the need to find love, the strong need of the strong desire, comes from actually a lack within oneself somewhere. As much as you are conditioned since you are young to dream about that one day, actually, at the end, it is only to confirm that you are not full yourself within. You're not fulfilled with your own existence. And it goes by these whole things of trying to compensate for things, or trying to fill up a void somewhere in your life, usually emotionally, which has to do again with the way many times how people were raised and the traumas in childhood. But it goes again with the fact that people never manage to feel complete by themselves, and also there is the sense of loneliness, and many times the need for some kind of validation. So all kind of aspects anyway are part of it, and people are seeking that through others. Again, you learn to live through others and others' opinions and others' lens, which is why you attach so much to your superficiality. And again, it's people mix up at the end the notion of love, regular love, and a relationship with attachment. And again, I've explained before enough, and that's what Buddhism is all about. The source of suffering is any form of attachment to anything or anyone, and in that case, of course, it's anybody. But people mix up a lot that. And attachment creates suffering because it creates that dependency. And any form of dependency is also like known as an addiction, and many people will actually use that word by saying that they are addicted to that person. They can't get away from that person, right? Anyway, that's just the addict mind. But attachment creates that emotional dependency, emotional neediness, which is very immature way, of course, to exist. While at the end, as it is known in general with Buddhism and goes back to upekkha, equanimity, is the notion of non-attachment. And only when you are non-attached emotionally to anything can you remain objective by keeping distance and seeing things for what they truly are. So again, the regular notion of love is actually, in one way, just like a business contract. I mean, that's why people get married, actually. It's to kind of put on paper like a business contract. Or just when people are attached to things, and it's again for most of the time what they expect that, or in that case the other one, to provide them for whatever they feel they need or they are lacking. So it usually starts, I mean, and it can be summed up by that basic sentence, which exactly is where at the start everything is meant to be kind of wrong anyway, or not go so well, which is to say, I want to find the person who will blah 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 blah, and usually the one who will make me happy, the one who will make me feel like this, the one who will provide me this or that. So anyway, it's back to the same very self-centered, selfish intention there, which has nothing to do with true love. And true love is only happening when one knows how to completely forget the ego-based need, and it's, of course, into the full-on giving, which is the same as the proper notion of compassion, which is different from those people who are actually empath, and they think that it's a good thing, and they like to criticize people for the lack of empathy or whatever, but they still don't understand that they are so emotionally attached to things, and it has to deal with their own personal, deeper issues, emotional traumas, unresolved. So they have no notion of what true compassion is actually. To be a true compassionate being is the same. You have to be able to detach emotionally from the person, the other being, or the situation. And so you can objectively give and provide the proper way, but not out of a kind of emotional emergency reaction. So again, pure love or true love actually doesn't really have any concrete demands, while usually the regular notion of love has some demands or some expectation, because it is centered around the ego-based needs and wants and lacks. So like it is said and known, only if you can be alone for a long period of time and feel complete and not at all lonely, and you feel you just have anything to give and not expecting anything in return, which is also the proper notion of exchange from egolessness, then you feel that you can be ready for true love. But again, it will happen only if the two persons are at the same level, right? So again, most of the time there is an imbalance, there's always most of the time the giver and the taker in a relationship, the dominant and the submissive, or anything like that. So as much as many people think it can work out, and it's about being compassionate to adapt whatever with true love, well, the reality shows anyway. And again, there's a reason why most of the relationships don't really work, despite the people trying to make it work and they try to survive it. But at the end, it's easy to see from the outside, how it looks like, and ultimately how very few actually are made of true love, which you can see as a pure, constant connection between the two beings. And in that sense, there's never any negativity actually happening. If there is true love, there's never any negativity. And also true love is also, as we call it, universal and unconditional love, right? That goes together again, back to the unconditioning. And I've explained before that true notion in a Buddhist way of unconditioned. And that's a big, big thing that is very, very hard to achieve, to attain. So, unconditional again implies totally egolessness in that sense. So, as soon as you put any conditions in your relationship like that, it's not about true love. And that's why also it's not limited for individuals, again, which is a big deal, right? Because there is the whole notion of ownership of the other one. Dependency and control turns into control, jealousy, and ownership of another being, which is totally the opposite of true love again. You cannot be jealous, envious, controlling, or feeling a sense of ownership or you belong to me thing. In true love, there is none of that. But this is what regular love is made about. And that's why, again, those things usually are kind of a source, in one form or another, of tensions in a relationship. And as the same goes with children, and supposedly the love relationship between parents, or especially the mother and the children. But again, it's the same, unfortunately, and that shows also with children. The way they are raised and the way after the parents play the mind games with the children that way, pretending to want them to see them happy and to raise them properly for the best, for their own good, but actually it's still the same way. It becomes a mind game, which is also what happens in regular relationships. So universal love and unconditional love means that it can apply to anyone, and it's not exclusive like that. And again, if one is seeking exclusivity, like demanding it, then you're not looking for true love. Which doesn't mean, of course, that anyone must be in an open relationship or polyamory or whatever, but because again, it's very rare to find another being that you would connect properly like that at that level, that you are at similar level. So once this connection is done, then nature works its way, Dhamma works its way, and that's why it's not something that you have to discuss and put as conditions or whatever, because naturally things will flow and it works perfectly like that. So, but that's true love, and it's very rare. So yeah, you know that you have true love, of course, by first of all having a certain higher level of awareness and self-awareness, and those kind of values of egolessness, and at the same time, concretely, things will just flow by themselves, right? And there's never negativity, tension, anger in that context. Of course, there is a little bit of that Osho thing that he put also in his quotes or in his tarot, that's about the lovers, in the Osho tarot cards, the lovers. But it has to do with also many people actually are caught up at that the most basic level, the animal level of love existence, which is the physical attraction, the physical aspect of things, and the sexuality. If you remain there where you are just at again quite the animal level, and for many people that's actually the main binding agent in the relationship is sexuality, but that's just what it is. Then there is the middle level of love, which becomes more like emotional, as I say, but still it has conditions, and so it goes up and down. And there is the higher level of love, or which is true love, which has to do with compassion, which usually implies people who have such a high level of awareness, and usually are people who can meditate also like that. So that's how he defines it too. Then I won't touch too much on that in this one, but then there is also the Tantra, also for people who actually have a higher level of spirituality or meditation, and that still can involve somewhat a physical aspect that way, but then it's not the same as being a barely evolved animal with no awareness or control of your impulses like that, and addiction to sensory pleasures. But it's about that's the problem again, that Tantra is known to be wrongly seen or resumed in the West as those kind of sexual practices, and that's supposed to be cool or give a nice connection, but still at the physical level, which shows that people completely misunderstand and miss the main factor, which is you can have only proper Tantra when you have reached a much higher level of awareness and spirituality, basically. Self-awareness and exactly egolessness, in that sense that you fully give 100% at every level, mentally and physically. But also if you have reached higher level of meditation and you can already transcend certain levels of physical sensation or basic response to senses, then you can also connect at every level that way into some higher, not dimensions, because it's still something else, but yeah, you can still connect in very, very special ways with another being at every level like that, which has to do with Tantra. But that's something else.